This video explains how to build the Holiday Coro floodlight. This floodlight is an inexpensive, high-output floodlight. It has a built-in DMX controller, 30 RGB 50/50 LEDs, and hookup is simple. It simply uses a Cat5 connection, which allows the signal and the power to be combined over one cable. How you power it is with one of our Holiday Coro power injectors. You can build this yourself also. These are very inexpensive, usually about $14. This single power injector will allow you to run 5 floodlights on one single injector. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, and let's start off with what's in the kit. Now, there are several kits. First of all, you can buy just the board by itself. If you want to build your own and you have your own LEDs, your own kinds of controllers, we sell just the board, no problem. Now, this board has also included all the remaining kits. Now, the kits are a do-it-yourself version, includes the DMX controller, some shrink wrap tubing, 10 LED modules, which are designed perfectly to fit on this board, some Cat5 cable, 7 feet, a coupler, and that is all you need to assemble the LED floodlight, except for the floodlight itself. Now, we also sell one more kit that has the LED floodlight parts plus the actual floodlight housing itself. So, in addition to that, we have one option that allows you to have all of this pre-assembled if you wish not to assemble it yourself. So, we've got 4 options. Board only, board with parts, or board with parts and the flood housing, or totally assembled, ready to go, excluding the power supply. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So, what I'm going to do is show you the parts, or the tools we're going to use. At a minimum, you need a screwdriver. This drill driver works even faster because there are Phillips screws. Dikes or nippers. A 3/8 inch wrench, that's for attaching the base. I'm just using a little blowtorch that shrinks the shrink wrap tubing. And I'm also going to use a Cat5 cutter, but this is not necessary. You can use razor or just your nippers if you're safe. Okay, now let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do is strip down or gut our housing. So we're going to go ahead and pull it out here. Now this housing is available at Lowe's. It's about $10 or less. In some cases you can get it for as little as $8. Now, this portion is the base mount, and you can mount this on there using the wrench. You can also, of course, mount the flood here just using this bracket. It has an adjustable bracket that allows you to adjust the angle. Alright, so we're going to set that aside. First thing we need to do, go ahead, open up the case. And we're going to take out some parts from the inside. I'm just going to go ahead and use my drill driver and open up the case. Now in there, what we're going to be removing is the lighting portions. Now you can save the bulb, and if so, you need to not touch it with your fingers. But if you don't need the bulb, just pull it out, throw it aside. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove one bolt at the bottom of this. And then what we're going to do, go ahead and remove the reflector. We can toss that aside. Now the screw that I just used to take out the center, you can throw that away too. Alright, now I'm also going to remove the light mounting bar. There's 2 screws at the base of this unit. You need to save one of those screws. And there's also a screw for the ground wire that's in here. And we're just simply going to remove all of those. Now, what I'm going to do, go ahead and set aside one of these screws because we're going to use that to screw down the controller. Alright, and I'm just simply going to cut the wires that go to the floodlight. So I can go ahead, and there's 3 wires, the ground wire and then the hot and the neutral. Go ahead and throw that out. Now, what we also need to do here, throw all the remaining screws, don't need those. We need to open up this junction box in the back. There's 4 screws, and it opens right up. Sometimes you have to give it a little bit of a help there. It's got a little gasket in here, so be sure to leave that. Now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull off here. Pull out the wires and take out the screws for the strain relief. We'll be reusing this, so save this little piece with the screws. I'm going to unscrew the back here. where the cord is held in place. And I'm going to go ahead and remove these wire nuts and set those over there, throw those out. And I'm just going to pull out the cord. Now, you want to save the cord because, of course, you can use the cord on the power supply when you're building a power injector, or, of course, for all kinds of other projects. So save that cord. Now, first thing we need to do is go ahead and get the Cat5 cable. We're just going to go ahead and open that up. And we're just going to cut off one end. Now, you can make these cords shorter if you want, or you can use the full length. I'm just going to go ahead and leave the full length so I'll have more flexibility. Okay, I've gone ahead and cut off the cable end. And the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and put on the strain relief piece, put that through, and then I'm going to feed the cable through the junction box, and then there's a little grommet inside. I'm just going to push that down through the grommet and pull out about 6 to 8 inches. A little extra is just fine. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and re-screw in this grommet. Just hand tighten it, doesn't need anything special. And now we're going to go ahead and put the strain relief in place. So we'll go ahead, just set this. Okay, so now we've gone ahead, we've got our Cat5 cable going through this junction box. We're just going to go ahead and close up the junction box. Nothing else to do in here now. Careful not to too much torque on those. They don't need a lot. All right, so now we've got our Cat5 cable coming out. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and just strip off about 1.5 inches just to give me some working room. All right, now what we have here is we have 4 pairs of wires. Now DMX in E111 is on the orange pair. So we're going to use the orange pair for the DMX, and then the remaining 3 pair we are going to use for power. Now there are a few standards for this. Well, not necessarily standards, but methods of doing it. We have a wiring standard that simply combines all the solid wires. There are brown, blue, and green, and we're going to take the solid brown, blue, and greens, and we're just going to twist them together so that they're in one bundle, and those will be serving as our negative or cathode. Now, the ones with the white stripe, or sometimes in certain cables they'll be white with a brown, blue, and green connection. Okay, so now what we'll do, we've got our wires. I'm going to go ahead and just trim them off here so that they're all the same length in this bundle, and I'm going to strip back just about 1/4 inch on each of the cables to expose the copper wire. And I'm also going to strip off the orange pair. Now, you do need a soldering iron for this, and I just simply have a soldering iron here set up to 400 degrees Celsius. And I'm just going to first start off by what's called tinning the wires. So what we're going to do is just going to touch a little bit of solder onto there. And this just makes it easier to attach the DMX controller. Okay, so again, the wiring, solid colors except for the oranges. Blue, brown, and green. That's going to be our negative. And then our positives are the ones with the white stripes. Now, we've got them tinned. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the supplied shrink wrap tubing. We're just going to pull off a little bit here. Pieces that are about 1 inch to 3/4 inch long. And I'm going to do 4 pieces because we have the Cat5 cable. And that has a pair. And then we have the positive and negative for the power. I'm just going to slide those on. Be sure to, of course, slide those on beforehand. It's not possible to put them on afterwards. Now, on the DMX controller here, it has plenty of current carrying capacity for this flood. It's not going to be strained at all. It has an output set of wires. It has red, green, blue, and white. That's for our output. That's going to go to our LEDs. We're going to hook up in a moment. And then it has 2 other wires. It has a black, red, and then it has a blue, red, and black in a 3-wire. Now, we'll also be selling a Cat 5 enabled version, so you may have a different design here slightly, but see your instructions later for that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and cut out that black wire that's part of the 3-wire bundle at the ground that we don't use. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and just simply solder these together. Now, the ones with the white and the dark colors together is our positive, so I'm going to go ahead and just solder those together. I know this is a little hard to see here. Just give it a little bit of heat, hook it up, and most of the time with a little bit of dexterity you can do this without any kind of helping hand. But if you have somebody who will help you, or sometimes they have these little jaws that'll let you do this with a little bit more ease. Okay, so pulling on it, make sure it's good and tight. Now, again, black to the solid colors there. Now on the orange pair, we have the blue. The blue is going to go to solid orange. That's the DMX negative side, or the RS-485 negative side. So the red wire is going to go to the white-orange or orange-white wire. So orange to blue. It's a solid blue. So I'm just going to go up here, touch it, and okay, we got our orange to blue. Now we'll do our red to orange. Okay, and that's it. Now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the shrink wrap tubing and shrink it on here. I'm just going to turn on my torch. You can use a lighter or any other kind of heat source. Doesn't take much. This is just to keep them from touching and shorting out together. All right, so now what we need to do is attach the LED modules to the DMX controller. Now, one end here, you want to use an end with some longer leads. You're going to see that they're pre-stripped already. I'm just going to go ahead and trim off just a little bit more to make them a little bit easier to attach. And just like we did with the Cat 5 cable, I'm also going to tin these wires, just put a little bit of solder on them so that they're easier to attach. Okay, now this one's pretty easy. What we need to do is first start off by putting some of the shrink wrap tubing on here. Again, 3/4 of an inch to an inch is fine. You can see I have plenty left over. Okay, so we're going to slide that on before we start. Slide that over each one of the cables. There we go. And this is easy because the colors pretty well match up. Red goes to red, blue goes to blue, green goes to green, and then the only remaining colors, which are white and yellow, go together. So there's red, and I know you can't see this, I'm sorry, but there's green, and finally we have blue. Alright, and they're going to put the yellow to white. Now that's our common anode, which is the positive. Okay, we're just going to slide these back up over the connections. Give it a little bit of heat here. Shrink those up. Alright, so now, electrically, we're all done. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and take the soldering iron before we finish, and we're going to go ahead and open up the hole just by going ahead, moving this around. Make it about 3/16 of an inch in diameter, and do it on the end with the 2 wires. And we're just going to put the screw that we saved earlier after we had the disassembly, stick that through there. And what this is going to allow us to do is go ahead, just take our screwdriver and screw this to the base down here. This keeps it just from flopping around here. All right, so you can see it's now down there. Now, we set the address using a programmer, and you can get that from our website. And that's all there is to it. Now, there's plenty of room in here. Don't worry about the extra cable. We're almost on the home run stretch now. What we're going to do is we're going to take the flood board, and you can see that it's marked with little dots. Those dots allow us to figure out how to align the LED modules. Now, on one corner, you'll see that there's a little smaller notch that's smaller than all the other notches. That's where we're going to start our first LED module coming off the DMX controller. So, it's real simple here. All we have to do is simply mount this after we have removed. Now, I have already removed the adhesive strip. There's a little strip on here that allows you to simply attach the double-sided tape, which is included with the LED modules, attach them onto the board. Now, we're just going to line up the board, the LEDs on the board, with the little notches. Make sure we get our alignment all straight. All right, and there are 10 of them. Now, if you don't need all 10, the difference between 8 and 10 is actually somewhat negligible. So if you want to save about $2.50 or so, you can remove those. All right, we're just going to go ahead and stick those on here. You can see the holes make it fairly easy to go ahead and get these aligned. Now, what's going to hold them in is not the adhesive that's on the modules themselves. What will hold the modules on will be pressure exerted by the front glass on top of the modules. Now, we've got them mounted on here. You can see they're all in a row here. Just give them a good push to make sure they're adhered. And what we're going to do is just going to take the extra wire for aesthetics and just going to roll it underneath each one of these notches that are on the edges of the panel. And go for the other side. And almost there. And you can see this whole assembly process is actually quite quick. All right, now it doesn't matter top, bottom, there's really nothing. We're just going to go ahead, put this flood board in there, and again, it's designed to kind of fit in and jam between the edges, and that's how it holds itself in. While making sure that the wires are in between the notches, we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and give this a nudge here. And the nudge. And it looks like we're good to go. Okay. One more over here. Okay. That's all there is to it. Now, all we have to do, make sure your glass is clean. We'll just simply close the door, flip it over, and I'm just going to use a regular screwdriver. You don't want to over-tighten this screw. It could exert too much pressure and crack the glass. It just needs enough to hold the LEDs in place, and you can see now it's completely done. Looks good. We've got all the LEDs centered. Just plug that in to a supplied, if you purchase the kit, a splitter. So what we're going to do is simply just plug this particular flood into the splitter. And this splitter is nothing special. All it is three females all hooked together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our Cat 5. This is the power output. So there's signal and power in this cable. We're just simply going to plug it in. And these controllers have a built-in sequence if you have it turned on. Now, what we would do in a normal display, this would be the first one. The signal would come down. In this end of the cable, signal would come in from your dongle or other DMX output device, come in, go through the cable, through the power supply. Then the signal would be continued on, but the power would be injected into this Cat 5 cable. This cord pulls Cat 5, the signal off the Cat 5 cable, and then passes it on to the next one. And so what we can do is just use regular Cat 5 cables from one to another, just daisy chaining them. Now, you can technically do 6 of these in one single power supply. We do recommend 5 Because 6 is right on the edge, and with the extra loss of power due to the Cat 5 cables, it might put you in a little bit of a tight situation and overload the power supply. Now, super simple. If you're wondering how you keep all this from getting damaged by the water, we sell a product called Corrosion X. And Corrosion X is simply just sprayed into the connection. This provides a dielectric, and it shields the connection. And as long as these are not laying directly in water, they'll be fine. There's no problems at all with them. All right, we hope you found this video helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us on our website.